And that's really the most accurate way to check your hormones.
One of the things about, I think, amazingly, like xenoestrogens, like foreign, xeno meaning foreign, exposure to estrogen, I think that's it's not remotely talked about enough in the male community as well. And I think that we are over-estrogenated, I agree with you, in our environment, massively, male and female. And I think it's having a big cascade on the testosterone levels in men and possibly, all these sort of downstream effects. I've even seen it with some of the younger male athletes I train. You can just their testosterone is an issue, and it's really shouldn't even be an issue for a 21-year-old guy. But I do think it's sort of running through that rampantly. But for women in breast cancer, I think the biggest xenoestrogen, which I would love to just get your opinion on it, is the pill. And your thoughts on how that's moving, and really just a better, maybe a message for younger women out there who are either considering getting on the pill, staying on the pill, going off the pill, or just your thoughts about it.
I don't know the exact study off the top of my head, but there was a study done not very long ago by the World Health Organization and conclusively showing a relationship between birth control pills and breast cancer. So there's it's a done deal. We just know, and I would have to say that probably about 90% of the women that I work with have been on some form of birth control in their early years, and some of them for a long time. So absolutely, that's a major risk factor. And another one that I want to mention is plastics. All these plastic bottles that people are drinking water out of is purely estrogenic, especially if it's sitting in the car and it's warm. You're just drinking, PBAs and estrogen causing chemicals there. And with men, it's so true. The similarities between breast cancer and prostate cancer are very, very close. They're hormone driven, hormone related. They're both fatty tissues. They absorb a lot of toxins, and I've worked when I was in active practice before I just focused on the breast cancer. I worked with a lot of men who had prostate cancer, and it's the same thing. Clean up your diet, detox, boost your immune system, balance your hormones, weaken the cancer with specific forms of herbal chemotherapy, and people get well.
Absolutely. We made a big push in our apartment to remove all plastic. I made a big push, I think, to help my balance out my testosterone and bring it up about a year and a half ago, and I gutted my apartment of all plastic, just everything. And
good for you.
With the water bottles too. Even if you're being careful and maybe not leaving them in the car, you have no control over what happened when it was being transported to the store. So, you kind of have to take that next step and kind of look at how different things get to you, especially anything in terms of manufacturing and food production.
Right. So don't buy plastic, buy water in plastic bottles. Get a good home filter that you just use the tap water and filter it out so that you remove 99% of the toxins, and you don't have it's not a problem.
Since we've been talking a little bit about hormones and and then talking, you mentioned about using food to support your liver and to help you methylate and things like that. Can you tell me a little bit more about your take on healthy eating, or your take on how food looks in your life and in the life of your patients?
Well, essential number one is really foundational. It's let food be your medicine. Hippocrates, the founder of so-called modern medicine, stated that because he understood how powerful food is. And now with the advancement of nutrigenomics, as I mentioned, and epigenetics, we know the specific nutrients in food that really affect us profoundly. people often ask me, well, what's a real good anti-cancer diet? Well, there's no cookie cutter, one size fits all type of diet, because it depends really on the type of cancer you have, your age, the health of your GI tract, your blood type, your metabolic type. But as a general rule, I say try to eat about 80% raw and 20% cooked, maybe a little bit more cooked in the wintertime, and then really focus on alkalizing your diet. So that means removing things that are acidic, like sugar and processed foods and excess meat and the bad oils. So the good things you want to focus on are things like, cruciferous vegetables and real superfoods like kale and spinach and all the greens. The healthy oils that provide a lot of omega-3s, such as fish oils and walnut and olive oil, things like that. Adding things like curcumin and garlic and medicinal mushrooms and raw nuts. Always soak your nuts 24 hours or at least overnight before you eat your nuts, because that starts the sprouting process. Lemons and limes. The citrus oil is very, very important. But really, if there's one food that I tell everybody to avoid, it has to be sugar, because sugar feeds cancer. And people don't understand that until I tell them. Somebody who's ever had a PET scan? And they say, yeah. Okay, so they inject you with a radioactive dye made with sugar. They let you sit in the room, and then they run you through the scan. And what cells light up first? It's the cancer cells, because cancer cells gobble up the sugar first. That medicine uses that test to determine where the cancer is spread. And so that's a prime example to show people, those cancer cells have more insulin receptor sites and get fed first when it comes to sugar. So eliminate sugar out of all forms in your diet. The grains, the carbohydrates, I tell people, especially if they're on a healing journey, the only grains that I allowed, which they're not really grains, they're more seeds, it would be quinoa and millet, and everything else out the door for now.
What do you feel about fruit?
Same thing with the fruit. The only fruit that I allow on a healing journey would be green apples, the Granny Smith apples, lemons and limes. Occasionally, some fresh berries, like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, but maybe only once a week there. But really minimize the sugar.
How do you feel about using, so you mentioned like medicinal mushrooms and some of these other, herbs and plants. Do you use them sort of on a regular basis in the diet, or are they more concentrated bursts, almost like supplemental or like dosed?
Well, there's kind of two avenues. If you're on the prevention track, so to speak, then you're going to really focus on, on the right foods. And there's certain things that you can do to really make sure that the chances of developing cancer are slim so for example, we talked a little bit about vitamin D, making sure that your vitamin D levels are at the right levels. For women and men, checking your iodine levels. As a nation and as most people in the world, we're very iodine deficient because we're exposed to so many things like the halides like bromide, fluoride, chloride. I mean, bromide is a flame retardant, and it's in our clothing, it's in our mattresses, it's in our cars, it's in all our electric appliances. And so the bromide competes for iodine and displaces it. If we have a little bit of it even, it just kicks it out. So making sure that your iodine levels are properly are at a good, proper level, because iodine will affect how your cells multiply and make sure that the cell morphology is nice and strong and healthy. It also affects the thyroid. So those are two key. Garlic is also very important. The cruciferous vegetables to help methylate the estrogens. Now, if you're on a healing journey, for example, there's things that will specifically target the cancer cells and boost your immune system, like the medicinal mushrooms, the CBD from hemp, the cannabis oils that are very, very powerful in killing cancer cells.
Yes.
Curcumin kills cancer cells. Melatonin, most people don't realize that melatonin, even though they view it as a sleep hormone, it's actually a cytotoxic hormone that literally kills cancer cells and prevents the spread of breast cancer. And there's several other protocols that really target cancer specifically.
That's fantastic. Are these, and you outline these protocols in your book, correct?
Yeah, they're all in the book, and people can head to my website, breastcancerconqueror.com. And if you just look under essential number 6, which is to repair your body with therapeutic plants and herbs, they'll see a lot of articles and information on the science behind how these products work and why they work.
So if you were to give women just an essential vitamin, supplemental nutrient or mineral, like the important cocktail that they should be having, pretty much their daily staple, what would that be?
If I were to pick just one, or
if you were to like your collection, your cocktail.
So for sure, vitamin D and iodine, magnesium, vitamin C. That's definitely a good start. Zinc, because zinc activates over 300 enzymes that affect your immune system. Selenium. Selenium also is anti-carcinogenic. So those are pretty important ones.
That's awesome. And actually, I had I actually have a very a question about your 5th essential, which is embracing biological dentistry. And this is now very much on my radar because I had a root canal this past week.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and
sorry.
Yeah, me too. So I had part 1 last week and the second half of it this week. And coming off of a root canal, biological dentistry seems like a very interesting topic in this breast cancer discussion and cancer in general. So can you please elaborate on that?
Yes. Biological dentistry is basically dentistry that understands that your teeth are live, energetic beings that are connected to every other organ in your body. When traditional dentists put an amalgam filling or silver filling in your tooth, basically it's 50% mercury, and mercury is the most toxic element on the planet, and it's in your mouth. Every time you brush your teeth, every time you eat, it's releasing methyl mercury vapors in your body, which is extremely deadly and extremely toxic. And then if you look at it from an energetic point of view, your teeth are connected to your organs through the acupuncture meridian system. So, for example, for men, the front teeth are the bladder and the prostate area. For women, the 4th and 5th teeth, starting from the center, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 4th and 5th on the top and on the bottom relate to the breast. And so if there's a hunk of metal in that tooth, then that energy cannot flow properly because it's like hitting that brick wall as it comes to that tooth. With time, that can cause some fatigue and some dis-ease in that organ. If you want to talk about root canals, think of a root canal like a dead gallbladder. If your gallbladder was very diseased or your appendix was very diseased and they tried to, they kept injecting it with antibiotics and even some things very similar to Clorox, which they put in your root canal, no matter how aseptic you try to make it, it's still a dead tissue in your body, and your body's innate intelligence wants to get rid of that and push it out of the body. So no matter how aseptic they try to make it, there's always a pocket of anaerobic bacteria at the root of that canal. And those bacteria are very, very toxic and are giving off or releasing toxins into your body. Statistically, 98% of people who have cancer have 1 or more root canals in their body.
So what would you suggest to someone who has had a root canal? and needs to combat some of these things?
Well, I'm not a dentist, but if it were me, I would